So we are going to start taking some notes on 4.1b, and the reason why the author of this worksheet decided to do a 4.1a and a 4.1b was, in 4.1a, you were finding out these pieces of information. In 4.1b, we're going to expect you to know it. When you have a midsegment, which is a segment connecting the two midpoints of the sides of a triangle. When I look at this picture, this point D is a midpoint because this distance here, AD, is the exact same as DC, so D must be a midpoint by its definition. If I look at point E, CE has to be the same distance as EB because they are congruent to each other. So that must mean E is a midpoint. Midpoint, midpoint. That makes DE a midsegment of the triangle. Midsegments have several properties about them. And what this whole unit is on are properties of triangles, things that you could use to solve different types of problems or figure out different parts of a triangle. First thing, midsegments, these things, are parallel to one side of the triangle. Which side is it parallel to? The bottom in this case. But if I had a midsegment from here to here, then it would be parallel to the other side. It's always parallel to one side. I can't always say if it's going to be the bottom, top, left, or right. You're just going to have to look and decide. Midsegments are also half the length of the side it is parallel to. So we're going to do a bunch of problems that deal with that. But sometimes instead of taking half of something, it's easier just to double it. So if I double the midsegment, that's going to equal the longer parallel side. So I have this in two different ways because sometimes you're just going to want to take half depending if we're going from the big side to the little side. Or if we're going from the little side to the big side, it might just be easier to double the midsegment. And also, the corresponding angles are congruent. What does that mean? That means that this angle here is going to be congruent to this angle there. There are the ones that look like the letter F. Since these are parallel, these angles have to be the same, and these angles have to be the same as each other because that's the other side, since they're parallel lines and this is a transversal. Those are called corresponding angles. So before we get into our examples, I had a little idea here. AD is something with DC. What are they? They are congruent to each other. They're the same distance, the same size, which makes D a midpoint. AB is blank of DE. AB, these aren't equal to each other. AB is twice as big as DE. Or AB is equal to 2 times DE. If I double the midsegment, it's going to be equal to the longer side it is parallel to. Lastly, if DE was 16x, then AB must be 32x because you just double whatever it is. And I'm hoping that makes sense to you. So if you understand this, we should be able to do a variety of different problems. Let's look at some examples that are on your worksheet. I picked number 1, number 8, number 11, and number 13. Let's do number 1 together. Number 1 says, use the diagram. X is the midpoint of UV. If it's the midpoint, then you can say this is congruent to that. I would add that to your picture since it said that. Since it says Y is the midpoint of UW, I would say, oh, these two pieces have to be congruent because that's a midpoint and that's a midpoint. Now, you can only use the properties of midsegments if it's from a midpoint to another midpoint. Is XY a midsegment? Yes, it is. Since it's a midsegment, we can answer a variety of different questions. Let's go with this first. This is a side, vertex, side. U, then X, then Y. U, then X, then Y. A side, vertex side, we're talking about this angle here is 60 degrees. And they ask us, what's the measure of angle V, this angle down here? If you know what the angle V's measurement is, say it out loud. You are correct if you said 60 degrees. I heard a bunch of you say the right answer. Now, it did not ask you this question, but if we were doing a proof, the reason why you know it is 60 degrees is because these are certain types of angles. What type of angles are they? Say it out loud. Corresponding angles, just in case. Those are the reasons why you know it's to be true. I hope you got it. Let's go to number 8. Number 8 says find the value of Vx. Not x, of Vx. Find the value of the x. Like it's something different. This is a midsegment. I know it's a midsegment because it goes from a midpoint to a midpoint. Are these two lengths equal to each other? No. You could either take half of this, which sometimes isn't the easiest thing to do, or you could double this. And in this case, I think that if I wanted them to be equal to each other, I might double the midsegment to equal the longer segment. So if I double this 2x, that should be equal to this 10x minus 21. They're not the same until you double it or multiply it by 2. Now, I bet you know what 2 times 2x is. 2 times 2x is what? Say it out loud. Good. This is where we go right back to that very first worksheet that we had in this class, worksheet 1 and worksheet 2 in unit 1. It's where we solve equations because we use these all the time. If I were you, I would add the 21 to this side. Negative 21 and a positive 21 makes 0. 4x plus 21 are not like terms, so we just put them side by side, 4x plus 21. And I want the x's on the same side of the equal sign, so I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. 4x, take away 4x is 0x. 21 is equal to 6x. And sometimes we're going to divide and it doesn't go in evenly. So all you do is reduce. You could take your calculator and do it, or you can just divide by 3 and divide by 3 and you get 7 over 2, which is the same thing as 3.5. I would accept either answer. Number 11 says if BE is 2x plus 6, so we got to find BE and then go and write this is 2x plus 6 in the picture, and DF is 5x plus 9. I usually add that to the picture. It says find DF. We need to figure out what x is so we can find out how long DF is. These two pieces are not congruent to each other. They are not the same as each other. This is a midsegment. This is the longer side. Since it's a midsegment, it's half of that side. It's not easy to take half of 5 and 9. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double this midsegment. I'm going to do 2 times the 2x plus 6 to equal the 5x plus 9. If I double the midsegment, it's equal to the longer parallel side. Then you can distribute and simplify. 2 times 2x is 4x. 2 times 6 is 12. I would get the x's on the same side of the equal sign. So I'm going to subtract 4x, which will make it nice and easy because 4x minus 4x goes away, and 5x minus 4x is 1x. You do not have to write the 1. 1x and x are the same thing. What's easier to write? Just the x. Just write x. I know I have 1x there. Don't need to write the 1 in front. Plus 9 equals 12. I'm going to subtract the 9. Subtract the 9. And guess what I get? I get x is equal to 3. But we don't stop there. That's what B students do. The A students, on the other hand, are going to go back and read the question. The question says, how long is DF? The answer is not 3. The answer is where we take this answer, plug it back in, plug 3 in there and get 5 times 3 plus 9. 15 plus 9. Now I know what it is. It is equal to 24. There is my answer. I'm going to just put a little line through here because it's not 3, it's 24. Does that make sense? Don't forget to go back and make sure you're answering what part you're supposed to find. That's what I'm trying to tell you. My last example for you. Number 13. Find the value of the variables. This one's a little bit tougher because it's a mid-segment and there's some other things going on here. I chose this one because it's not just dealing with mid-segments, but it has something to do with something you learned in Unit 3. X is this length, so let's just talk about this. If this is 60 degrees here, then this angle here has to be 60 degrees. Now, do you remember learning about isosceles triangles? When two sides are the same, the two angles across from them are also the same. If that's 60, then this over here needs to be 60 as well. Well, what does that mean? That means that if this is 60 and this is 60, guess what the top has to be when they all add up to 180? That's 120. What does that have to be as well? What does that mean? That means that this part of the triangle is equilateral, meaning all three angles are the same and all three sides are the same. So if this is 5, guess what this is? 5. And guess what this is? 5. Is that what x is equal to? No, but look at what it is. We can go 5 and 5, and then if this is a mid-segment, then that's 10, and then guess what x has to be, and say it out loud if you know. 10 is correct. You can do the 5, and this has to be 5, and 5 and 5 make 10. All sides are going to be 10 for that equilateral triangle. We'll stop your notes right there.